Behind every smile on the red carpet, there can be a secret, a shadow waiting to surface. Hollywood sells dreams, glitz, fame. These stars weren't just actors or musicians. They became criminals whose names will forever echo through prison walls. Fame couldn't save them. Money couldn't protect them. Now they're serving life and paying the ultimate price for their sins. Welcome to Exposed Hollywood, where we uncover 10 celebs serving life sentence in prison. Eric Naposki, from the field to a life sentence. Eric Naposki once had everything: talent, fame, and a promising career on the football field. A former NFL linebacker who played for the New England Patriots, Indianapolis Colts, and even the Barcelona Dragons, he was the kind of athlete destined for greatness. But his story took a dark, unimaginable turn, from the bright lights of the stadium to the cold steel bars of a prison cell. In 1994, a shocking murder rocked Newport Beach, California. Wealthy entrepreneur Bill McLaughlin, who had made his fortune in the healthcare industry, was found shot to death inside his luxurious beachfront mansion. McLaughlin lived with his girlfriend, Nanette Johnston, and what investigators soon uncovered would unravel a chilling tale of greed, betrayal, and murder. Eric Naposki, who worked as a nightclub bouncer at the nearby Thunderbird, had been having an affair with Johnston. When detectives learned of the relationship, everything began to click. Naposki was drowning in debt and desperate for money, while McLaughlin was a millionaire planning to retire with a massive fortune at stake. To prosecutors, the motive was clear: love and money. After a long investigation and an explosive trial, Naposki was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Johnston, too, was convicted and given a life sentence. Despite maintaining his innocence and claiming he was manipulated by Johnston, Naposki's appeals failed. Today, the once promising NFL star remains behind bars, a cautionary tale of how fame and fortune can vanish in an instant. And if you think Eric Naposki's story is shocking, wait until you see the next celebrity on this list, a powerful mogul who may spend the rest of his life behind bars. Don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping stories on Exposed Hollywood. William Hayden's story is one of the darkest and most disturbing downfalls in reality TV history, a chilling transformation from fame to lifelong shame. Once celebrated as the tough, gun-loving star of Sons of Guns on the Discovery Channel, Hayden built his reputation around his Baton Rouge custom firearm shop, Red Jacket Firearms. But behind the television fame lurked unspeakable crimes that would destroy his career and his life forever. In 2017, Hayden was convicted on 2 counts of aggravated rape and 1 count of forcible rape, crimes committed against 2 young girls, one dating back to the early 1990s. The victims' testimonies painted a horrifying picture of abuse that spanned years, taking place in Hayden's home and even in his truck. The younger victim came forward first, and after his arrest in 2014, another woman broke her silence, revealing that she too had suffered at Hayden's hands when she was a child. After just 1 hour of deliberation, the jury unanimously found him guilty. The Louisiana Supreme Court later upheld the verdict, sealing Hayden's fate: life in prison plus 40 years. The courtroom heard gut-wrenching details of manipulation and pain that left scars no sentence could erase. Even as he pleaded innocence, the evidence, and the victim's courage, spoke louder than his denials. But Hayden's legal troubles didn't stop there. He was already serving another life sentence for similar crimes in a neighboring parish, after pleading no contest to yet another charge of aggravated rape involving one of the same victims. Once a man who wielded power, fame, and television cameras, Hayden now spends his days behind bars, his name forever synonymous with betrayal and brutality. His show, Sons of Guns, which ran from 2011 to 2014, was swiftly canceled after his arrest. What began as a symbol of American craftsmanship and grit ended in disgrace and disgust. The victims have finally received justice, but the psychological wounds remain deep. William Hayden's story stands as a grim reminder that evil can hide behind even the most ordinary smiles, and that the mask of fame can conceal the darkest of souls. War Machine's rise and fall is one of the most shocking stories in the world of mixed martial arts, a tale of rage, violence, and ultimate ruin. Jonathan Paul Copenhaver, better known by his ring name War Machine, once had the physique of a fighter and the confidence of a star. But behind the muscles and bravado hid a violent temper that would destroy not only his career but his entire life. On June 5, 2017, War Machine was sentenced to life in prison for the savage beating of his ex-girlfriend, Christy Mack, a popular adult film actress. The horrifying attack took place in 2014 and left Mack with broken bones, missing teeth, and internal injuries so severe that doctors said she was lucky to be alive. During the trial, Mack bravely recounted the nightmare, how War Machine had ambushed her, assaulted her repeatedly, and even attempted to force himself on her before leaving her for dead. Somehow, she managed to escape and call for help just in time. The court found him guilty on 29 counts, including sexual assault, kidnapping, and attempted murder. The judge handed down a life sentence, with the possibility of parole only after 36 years, meaning War Machine won't be eligible for release until he's 71 years old. The verdict sent a powerful message about accountability and justice for victims of domestic violence. The case made national headlines, sparking outrage and empathy in equal measure. For many, it was a grim reminder of how easily fame and aggression can turn deadly when mixed with unchecked rage. After the trial, Christy Mack became an outspoken advocate for survivors of abuse, urging the public to believe victims and to support those trapped in cycles of violence. War Machine's story stands as a brutal cautionary tale, a man who once fought in the cage, but ultimately lost the biggest fight of all, the battle against his own demons. Kamaine Wilson's story is one of fame twisted into pure evil, a chilling tale of greed, betrayal, and the unthinkable act of a son murdering the very woman who gave him everything. Known by his stage name Young QC, Kwame Wilson once dreamed of becoming the next big name in Chicago rap. But instead of topping charts, he made national headlines for one of the most horrifying crimes imaginable, hiring a hitman to kill his own mother, Yolanda Holmes. In 2013, Yolanda, a well-loved beauty salon owner on Chicago's North Side, was found brutally murdered in her apartment. The truth behind her death left the community stunned. Holmes adored her son. She spoiled him with expensive gifts, designer clothes, flashy jewelry, even a Ford Mustang. But for Wilson, that wasn't enough. He wanted control of her money. After her death, he shamelessly flaunted his $90,000 inheritance, spending it on luxury shopping sprees, massages, and wild nights, posting photos online as if celebrating her death. In 2020, justice finally caught up with him. A Cook County jury convicted Wilson of first-degree murder for orchestrating his mother's killing. He was sentenced to 99 years in prison, effectively a life sentence. His hired hitman, Eugene Spencer, received 100 years, while getaway driver Loriana Johnson got 14. During sentencing, Judge Stanley Sachs condemned the act as matricide, the murder of one's own mother, calling it an unspeakable betrayal. Even as he stood before the court, Wilson showed little emotion, claiming, "Nobody loved my mom more than me," a statement that rang hollow after the monstrous betrayal he committed. Once seen as a rising entertainer with potential, Young QC's name is now forever associated with cold-blooded greed. His music career is buried beneath the weight of his crime, a dark legacy that will haunt his name far longer than any hit song ever could. Hardbody Harrison's story is one of the most shocking and disturbing downfalls in wrestling history, a twisted tale of power, manipulation, and ultimate disgrace. Once celebrated for his strength in the ring, Harrison, real name Harrison Norris Jr., is now serving a life sentence for crimes so heinous they stunned even his former fans. Before his fall, Harrison had everything going for him. A Gulf War veteran, a 2001 Toughman heavyweight champion, and a rising name in the wrestling world, he even won a racial discrimination lawsuit against AOL Time Warner, walking away with a hefty settlement. But behind the muscles and bravado, darkness was brewing. In 2007, that darkness came to light when the FBI raided his home, uncovering a nightmare of abuse and human trafficking. According to prosecutors, Harrison lured women in with promises of fame and wrestling stardom. But once they were under his roof, their dreams turned to horror. He kept 8 women as captives, forcing them into sexual servitude and exploiting them for money. He brainwashed his victims with twisted training programs that mixed wrestling drills, household chores, and psychological control, even making them memorize commandments about obedience and beauty. Those who disobeyed were fined, trapping them in a cycle of debt and fear. Harrison tried to defend himself in court, claiming the women lived with him willingly. But the jury saw through the lies. After hearing harrowing testimonies from his victims, he was found guilty on multiple counts of sex trafficking and false imprisonment and sentenced to life in prison in 2008. Today, Hardbody Harrison sits behind bars, his once chiseled image now a haunting reminder of how power can corrupt completely. From championship belts to cold prison walls, his name no longer stands for strength, but for betrayal, exploitation, and disgrace. Justice, however, has finally been served for the women whose lives he destroyed. Keith Wright's story is one of the most shocking downfalls in NFL history, a tale of raw talent, wasted potential, and devastating choices that cost him everything. Once a promising football star with dreams of glory, Wright's life spiraled from the bright lights of the NFL to a staggering 234-year prison sentence, a number so extreme it sounds almost unreal. Wright had everything going for him in the beginning. A standout defensive tackle at the University of Missouri, he was drafted by the Houston Texans in the 6th round of the 2003 NFL Draft. His college career had been filled with promise, but the NFL proved less forgiving. After short stints with multiple teams, including the Colts and the Buccaneers, Wright found himself out of the league by 2006. What came next was a descent into darkness that would shock the sports world. In 2011, living in Sacramento, California, Wright committed a series of violent home invasions that would destroy his life forever. During one break-in, he reportedly sexually assaulted a woman, then forced her to withdraw cash from an ATM at gunpoint. His crime spree left behind a trail of fear and trauma, and when he was caught, prosecutors stacked up 19 felony charges against him, including kidnapping, armed robbery, and first-degree burglary. In 2012, the verdict came down. Wright was sentenced to 234 years and 8 months in prison, the longest prison term ever given to a professional athlete in U.S. history. At just 32 years old, his fate was sealed. The same man who once dreamed of Super Bowls and fame would now spend the rest of his life behind bars. Keith Wright's story isn't just about a fall from grace. It's a brutal reminder of how quickly success can vanish when bad choices take over. He had the power, the platform, and the potential to inspire others. Instead, he became a cautionary tale of wasted talent and irreversible regret. In the end, Wright's life stands as a haunting example that no amount of fame can protect you from the consequences of your own actions. Max B, from rap star to prison bars. Max B's life reads like a tragic hip-hop ballad: fame, fortune, betrayal, and the heavy price of bad decisions. Once hailed as one of the most promising voices in rap, Charlie Wingate, better known as Max B, was climbing fast in the mid-2000s with his signature, wavy style that inspired a new sound in hip-hop. But behind the swagger and success, dark choices were brewing that would derail his entire career. In 2006, Max B allegedly masterminded a robbery at a New Jersey hotel, a plot to steal money and drugs from two men. The heist went horribly wrong. One of the victims, David Taylor, was fatally shot during the botched robbery. Though Max B wasn't physically present at the scene, prosecutors argued that he was the brains behind the operation, the one who planned it all. In 2009, he was convicted of conspiracy to commit armed robbery, kidnapping, aggravated assault, and felony murder. The sentence was staggering: 75 years in prison. Fans were shocked. Many believed the punishment was excessive, arguing that Max B's influence and talent had made him a target. Supporters rallied under the banner #FreeMaxB, calling for justice and leniency. Even from behind bars, the Harlem rapper refused to let his voice go silent. He continued writing and releasing music, building a cult following that refused to fade. Then came a glimmer of hope. In 2019, Max B announced that his sentence had been dramatically reduced, from 75 years down to 12. On Instagram, he wrote triumphantly, "They gave me 75, got it chopped to a 20, and then down to a dozen. I'm good with the money. #superbad. Soon after, he released House Money, proving that his creativity was still alive, even if his freedom wasn't yet fully restored. Max B's story is more than a tale of crime and punishment. It's a stark reminder of how quickly fame can flip into infamy. He had the world at his feet, but one fateful decision changed everything. As he works to rebuild his name and reclaim his legacy, Max B stands as both a symbol of resilience and a cautionary lesson about the thin line between success and self-destruction. Michael Jace's story is one of Hollywood's most chilling descents, from acclaimed actor to convicted killer. Once celebrated for his role as Officer Julian Lowe on the hit crime drama The Shield, Jace was a familiar face on television, admired for his calm demeanor and commanding presence. But behind that composed exterior was a man spiraling into darkness. On May 19, 2014, Jace's real-life drama turned deadly. In a horrifying twist, he called 911 himself to report that he had shot his wife, April Jace, inside their Los Angeles home. When police arrived, they found April lifeless, and even more heartbreaking, their 2 young sons had witnessed the unthinkable. Prosecutors revealed that Jace killed April in a fit of jealous rage during an argument about their marriage. The defense claimed it was self-defense, but the evidence told a different story. After just a brief deliberation, the jury found him guilty of second-degree murder. His sentence, 40 years to life in prison. The case shocked both fans and colleagues alike. How could a man who portrayed a disciplined police officer on screen become a murderer off it? Some blamed the pressures of Hollywood fame, while others pointed to a darker truth: years of alleged domestic abuse. Friends and relatives of April testified that she had confided in them about Jace's violent temper long before the shooting, painting a tragic picture of a marriage filled with fear and control. April's death reignited conversations about domestic violence and gun control, with many arguing that stronger protections might have saved her life. Meanwhile, Jace's Hollywood peers struggled to reconcile the man they knew with the monster the world saw. Co-star Walton Goggins called the news heartbreaking, remembering Jace as both a gifted performer and a kind soul, a contradiction that still haunts those who worked with him. For April's loved ones, there is no closure, only grief and unanswered questions. And for Michael Jace, the actor who once lived in the spotlight, life has become an endless shadow. His story stands as a brutal reminder that fame can't hide inner turmoil, and success can't protect anyone from the consequences of their own darkness. What began as a promising Hollywood career ended in tragedy, leaving behind not just a broken family, but a legacy stained with violence and regret. C-Murder, from rap royalty to convicted killer. Corey Miller, better known by his stage name C-Murder, was once one of the brightest stars in Southern hip-hop. As a core member of Master P's No Limit Records, he helped define the gritty sound of late 90s rap with hits that echoed from New Orleans to New York. But the man who once rapped about the streets now lives behind bars, serving a life sentence for a crime he swears he didn't commit. In 2002, a 16-year-old fan named Steve Thomas was shot and killed at a Louisiana nightclub after an altercation with Miller's entourage. 7 years later, in 2009, C-Murder was convicted of second-degree murder, sending shockwaves through both the hip-hop community and the nation. From that moment, the name C-Murder took on a haunting new meaning. The trial was riddled with controversy. Eyewitnesses later recanted their testimonies, claiming they were pressured to identify Miller as the shooter. No forensic evidence tied him to the killing, and questions still linger about the fairness of the proceedings. Despite multiple appeals, every attempt to overturn his conviction has failed. Yet, even from his prison cell, Miller refuses to fade away. He's continued to record music, dropping albums and features from behind bars, his lyrics now carrying the raw pain of confinement and injustice. In 2020, through his publicist, he declared, "I am not guilty of the crime for which I was convicted. I look forward to proving my innocence and regaining my freedom." His case has drawn powerful allies. Rappers like Meek Mill and Kim Kardashian have publicly called for his release, arguing that his conviction reflects a broken justice system that too often fails black men. Once celebrated for his voice, C. Murder's legacy is now defined by silence, the heavy kind that echoes through prison walls. Whether he's a victim of injustice or a man paying for his choices, his story remains one of hip-hop's most haunting tragedies, a cautionary tale of fame, power, and the fine line between freedom and forever being caged. Suge Knight, from music mogul to convicted killer. Once the most feared man in hip-hop, Knight's rise and fall reads like a Shakespearean tragedy set to a gangsta rap soundtrack. As the co-founder and former CEO of Death Row Records, he built an empire that defined an era, launching legends like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, and Tupac Shakur. But behind the fame, there was always violence, intimidation, and chaos. In 2015, Knight's dark legacy caught up with him on the set of the Straight Outta Compton biopic. During a heated confrontation, Knight ran over two men with his truck, killing one and injuring another. He claimed it was self-defense. The court called it murder. Ultimately, Knight pleaded no contest to voluntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 28 years in prison. The man who once ruled the West Coast rap scene with an iron fist now wakes up behind bars, far from the luxury and power he once flaunted. Knight's criminal record stretches back decades. From countless assaults to his rumored connection to the 1996 murder of Tupac Shakur, his close friend and star artist, controversy has always followed him. Some say his empire was built on fear, others on genius. But by 2015, both had finally run out. Since his imprisonment, Knight's health has spiraled. He's suffered blood clots, collapsed in court, and faced multiple hospitalizations. Despite his failing body, he continues to insist on his innocence. Still, unless a miracle happens, Suge Knight won't see freedom until 2043, if he lives that long. The once mighty king of gangsta rap is now just another inmate, haunted by the ghosts of his past. And there you have it, 10 celebrities who went from fame to a lifetime behind bars. Once adored, now forgotten. They traded red carpets for concrete floors, limousines for prison vans. Fame can delay justice, but it can't escape it forever. In the end, the spotlight fades, and the truth takes center stage. Which of these stories shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more jaw-dropping Hollywood revelations, only on Exposed Hollywood.